Hey, welcome back. So we are gonna go on to the second parts of the hero's journey, right? So we just came from the ordinary world, we crossed the threshold into the world of adventure, or our special world, right? And this part, Act 2, is gonna be a little longer than the Act 1 and Act 3. It actually makes up like about half of the story. So represented by here, right? By this little diagram. But yeah, so we just crossed the thresholds, right? And the first things first, we're gonna make some friends. We're gonna make some enemies, and we're gonna go through some tests, right? So in this stage of our story, we make some friends, right? So in the case of Harry Potter, it is Ron and Hermione, right? Of course, Ron and Hermione and Harry, the magical trio, and Wizard of Oz. It's the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the can't remember the other one. But yeah, there's always friends. There's always enemies. In Harry Potter's case, it is Malfoy and Snape for some time of the story. And yeah, so our hero really needs to find out who he can trust, who he can't trust, and yeah. But the cool thing is, both his enemies and his allies prepare him in some type of way to you know gain more personal, to develop himself more, so that when he finally gets to the supreme ordeal or to the big ordeal, he's ready, so that he has more experience, right? But what's really cool about this stage is that there are tests, right? And the cool thing about this is that the hero doesn't always have to beat he doesn't have to, be victorious in all these smaller tests, right? Because just like us, just like, regular people, and remember, we're trying to make this as relatable as we can to your target demographic. We don't always win 100% of all our fights, right? But, we might lose some smaller ones, but as long as we, you know, win the ultimate, you know, big boss, then we're solid, right? But, the cool thing is, throughout these tests, we can really see our hero's values, his what drives him, and his purpose, right? And we can really look much deeper into the character. And us doing this allows your audience to be like, "Hey, wow, that kind of sounds like me," or like, "Oh, wow, I kind of want to be like that," right? So this is why this part is really really cool. And especially with the friends part and enemies part, because how realistic is it, for, I guess, a hero can do this without friends, but that almost seems a little lonely, a little overpowered, right? um in our own lives, in ordinary people's lives, usually, not always, but usually we have some type of, we have allies that we can count on that help us, really overcome some of our bigger challenges, right? Or, our smaller challenges, and helps us develop as people. So, by having friends, by having these challenges, it makes our hero a lot more human. It makes them a lot more relatable to our target demographic, and it gives us an opportunity to really you know, put stuff that we've created from our avatar persona, from our empathy map, put that into, our story. Here is where we could do it, right? Especially here. So, yeah, I think I've covered this part enough, but, this part's really cool. So then we approach the Inmost Cave, right? So coming from the Inmost Cave, we actually, this is the part right before the big boss, before the big ordeal, right? So usually there's some type of internal conflict. Our hero gets to, the lowest, darkest points, either physically, like in the real world, like location wise, or, like internally, right? So location wise, this is like, in Harry Potter. I really hope you guys have seen that, because I've been making a lot of references. But in Harry Potter, excuse me, but in Harry Potter, it is that, that little tunnel, is underground like cave, that he has to face his foes in, right? That he has to face like Voldemort, and that guy with the whatever. It's generally like this in this underground place, or in Star Wars, for example, it is in the Death Star, right? It's approaching the Inmost Cave, right? It's literally like the darkest place, the lowest place. And when going and approaching this, it's very important that Internally, your hero kind of expresses, or his doubts and fears kind of resurface from, the initial refusal of the call to adventure because, you know, that makes it human, right? If you're gonna do the thing that scares you the most, of course your doubts and your fears are gonna come up again. And if they don't, it doesn't sound human. It doesn't sound real. And that's why this part, really allows us, or really allows our target demographic to connect with our hero, because just like normal people, they get scared too. They um our logical thinking and being like, dang, maybe I shouldn't, approach this freaking star of death, right? And yeah, but one of the cool things about this is that not only does it give us an opportunity to make our heroes relatable to our target demographic, but it escalates the tension. It lets us know that something is about to happen, right? And that something is that big boss that we're going to talk about next. But yeah, another example I thought of was the labyrinth. That's you know entering the labyrinth where the minotaur is, where they have to defeat the minotaur. And but yeah, you know what? Let's just move on to this next part. Oh wait, whoops. This next part, right? So this is the big ordeal, right? This is a supreme ordeal, and of course it has to be dangerous. In some physical mental way, and they have to beat this. They have to face it to survive, right? So this part is one of the one of the most entertaining parts in most stories. This is the high points. Our hero has everything on the line, and usually in some sense, in some way, our hero has to die, you know die, so that he can be reborn, so that he gets some type of, strength or knowledge or wisdom or whatever else, so that he can finish his journey. So in Harry Potter, right, it's Voldemort that is his, big ordeal, his big boss that he has to, beat. In the game Mario, right, so that kind of follows a storyline too. His big boss is Bowser, and the Inmost Cave is Bowser's castle. Um, and his friends, his allies are Yoshi and Luigi. And I'm telling you, you see this a lot once you kind of um, realize the hero's journey. There's a lot of stuff that you will see, but yeah, this is the entertaining part. This is the part where you face the big boss, right? And of course, because this is the monomyth for marketers, we have to make the big boss very relatable to one of the ultimate challenges that your target demographic has. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you create your story. And yeah, this shouldn't be too hard for you guys to make, right? So this next part is the reward. So, of course, in Mario, he defeats Bowser and Mario gets the princess, right? But it's not always a girl, right? It's not always the love interest that is the reward, right? A lot of times, a lot of, what's the word, stereotypical storylines, that is the reward. But, in addition to that, it could be knowledge. It can be, power. It could be like, Excalibur. It could be, love. It could be that they saved, one of their friends, or their family, right? There's a lot of forms that the reward can come in. But one of the most notable things is that, our hero, after defeating the big boss, right, is able to, come out as a new person, right? A stronger person that, that's what happens when you're a hero, right? In your own story, you get plot armor. Plot armor? That's, I don't know, a word I heard my friend use. But yeah, so after this, we actually go on the last part. So the reward, we're not done yet. We actually still need to go back to the ordinary world and, the whole Act 3, basically. So, of course, we have to go back home, right? So in our hero's journey, our hero has to go back home. They still have to do all of Act 3, and they have to commit to leaving. They have to commit to leaving this world of adventure, this awesome special world, so that they can go back home, right? Usually what's cool about this is that because the world is so cool and special, sometimes the hero might not want to leave. But the hero chooses to leave, to go back and share, bring back his wisdom, bring back his knowledge, and you know, kind of serve a cause that's bigger than himself. And usually that type of characteristic, that type of attributes makes a hero, a hero. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that basically finishes Act Two. But yeah, I just wanted to go over some examples with you guys because yeah, I know Act Two was a little bit long, and you might be thinking right now like, how the heck am I gonna get all 12 stages into my story, right? It's not like you have the audience. Maybe your audience isn't ready to sit down and watch a full-on movie, right? And that's true, right? Because a lot of the examples I have been using are these movies. But let me tell you, well, for one, you don't really have to like. I mean, you should, but you don't have to do each one of these parts, right? But let me show you. I found this little website for you guys that has a couple of good examples. So right here, I mean, they don't follow exactly Christopher Vogler's version, but it's very similar, right? So ordinary world, our hero is home with his cats. The call to adventure, the cat runs away. The refusal of the call. So the cat, of course, runs into the scary forest, right? And there's bats. Oh no. But then a wise dog comes to our hero and tells him that yes, you have to go save your cats, right? So they leave the safety of their bright lit home and cross the world into this dark forest. And when they cross, once they cross into this world of adventure, into this dark forest to find his cat, right? That's kind of ironic that a dog is helping him find his cat. I don't know, I thought that was kind of funny, but there are I think there are bats here, but then this guy with bald that has a lot of facial hair, with his lantern, scares the bats away, and so that's his friends. The bats were the enemies, right? So they approach this inmost cave, and in this approach, they're getting ready to face this dangerous height because they dangerous heights. They see his cat up here. Excuse me. Or actually, I'm not sure. No, this is the dog. The cat's over here. Um, So this is the big ordeal, right? They have to climb up these, crazy tall trees. Look how tall that is, to save this cat, right? And the reward, right? Because of that, they get the cat back. But of course, they can't just stay in the forest. They have to go back home. So they get on the road back, and of course, the cat chases the mouse, and then he gets super scared that he's gonna lose his cat again, and all of that was gonna be, pointless. But no, they manage to go back home, and then there is atonement, which Christopher Vogler uses resurrection. But yeah, they realize how much they love each other, and then there is a return home. But of course, it's not just full circle back how it used to be. Now there is a deeper experience that they have, and knowledge, and love that they have for each other. Right? That is what they have as opposed to the first, just being home. And another example, Homer's Odyssey, right? So King Odysseus, right? He has a family. He has a little baby and a beautiful wife, back in his kingdom, right? But then there's a call to adventure. He has to fight. He has to fight the Trojans, right? He says, "No, I have a kid. I can't do that." But then, of course, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, comes to help Odysseus and tell him that he must go on this adventure, right? So then he has to cross the sea so that he leaves his home so that he can go onto this world of adventure. And then in this world, he gets a bunch of tests, maybe like way too many tests. He makes some friends, he makes some enemies, right? And then as he's approaching the inmost cave, right? Or this causes him to approach his inmost cave, right? But his crew somehow opened this bag of magical wind that blows him very, very far from his home, which is unfortunate, right? Poor King Odysseus. But then there is this big ordeal, right? So he has to go into this underworld to talk to this blind prophet that tells him that he can go back. But of course, during this big ordeal, he faces death, right? but of course he survives. And as a reward, he gets to go back home. And then on his road back, he has to face all these people before things can go back to normal. These little, I don't know what they're called, but these other guys, right, are trying to steal his wife, steal his home. So he has to, face that and all these other things. And then, the resurrection, and, he returns home back to his wife, and everything's awesome. But now, he's not just back home with his wife. He's faced all these crazy things and, has gained a bunch of respect and, crazy adventures, right? But yeah, so my point is, right, with showing you guys this, is that, you know, these little cartoons were able to, you know, tell a story basically, right? In a matter of like a minute or 2 minutes. I mean, I might have dragged it on a little bit, but you could have read this whole thing in like a minute or 2 minutes and would have been like, dang, that's a cool story, right? Or the story with the cat, or Kill a Mockingbird's right here too. This is pretty cool. Storyboard.com. If you guys want to check out that you guys yourself, or check that out yourselves. But yeah, my point and showing you guys that is that you're able to do a full-on like story, because I know if you're trying to use this for your business, you're not going to have a full movie-long you know amount of time to be able to tell your story to engage your audience like that. But you can have a couple of minutes, and within those couple of minutes, you can really connect with your audience if you know of course, if you do your avatar persona and your empathy map correctly, and if you have this type of story structure, right? Because in this type of story structure, which is both engaging and entertaining, but it gives a lot of opportunity for your audience to relate, right, and feel ultimately, which is what we want them to do. So this basically wraps it up for Act 2, and I will see you guys in the next lesson. All right.